All right, here with Main Event Boxing commentator Ben Damon. Ben, big news of the day, Tszyu, the rematch. It's on. Thoughts on this fight?
It's perfect, isn't it? We all know what happened last March, Bloody Sunday, as it ended up being back here in Australia. But now Tim gets the chance to make a wrong very right, to head back over to the United States, fight for another world title, attempt to become a two-time world champion, but also to get that result back against Sebastian Fundora after one of the most gruesome and brutal fights that we've ever seen involving an Australian boxer. Things did not go to plan on that occasion, and what a situation it is now to look back on the fact that Keith Thurman pulled out of the fight. Fundora came in at late notice, obviously a very different style of opponent. He got the cut. Since then, he's been knocked out by Zarafa, but now it all comes back together and almost heads back to the start. So it just feels right.
How long has this sort of been in the works? Obviously, talk of the Thurman fight with Tim potentially. How did this all come about?
Well, you have to speak for official word from the good people at No Limits and PBC, but certainly the conversations around what would happen next with Tszyu began in earnest the moment that the fight against Joey Spencer finished. That was an audition for the next stage of his career. Clearly, if Tszyu came out and lost that fight, maybe it's all over. If Tszyu came out and looked okay in that fight, who knows what the next step is. But if Tszyu came out and looked sensational as he did and completely dismantled and stopped Joey Spencer, then suddenly everyone's interested in what is next. And there's a lot of conversations that immediately take place about making that the biggest thing that it possibly can be. So clearly the Thurman experience in Australia was a very successful one for Keith Thurman's reputation against Brock Jarvis, who was brave but ultimately beaten against someone who looked like they turned back the clock in Keith Thurman. So there's still a lot of interest in that fight, but this is really the fight, isn't it? Because this is the one with the history. This is the fight that everyone in Australia and who watched that fight the first time around the world in the United States and elsewhere wants to see again, because for the first two rounds, it looked like Tim had him gone. It looked like he'd figured him out, and I thought he was going to stop him. Then he got an axe wound in his head and things changed very dramatically. A lot of questions thrown around about what the team should have done in the immediate aftermath of that cut. But now everyone gets the chance to do the right thing, to make things right. And it's really exciting to know that not only is this fight there, but all the talk is that the winner, and obviously in Australia a lot of people are hoping that that's Tszyu, does then fight Keith Thurman. So it all goes full circle, doesn't it? It's amazing how these things can work out.
What does it sort of say about Tszyu that, you know, he can get a title shot? Obviously, these guys want to fight him. There's something sort of there for Fundora in this fight as well.
Yeah, he's a star, isn't he? Because not only did he ultimately lose this fight, and, you know, it's one of those ones where it's hard to say it's a real loss because he did fight with an extreme cut with blood in his eyes. He couldn't see. He shouldn't have been there at the end of the fight, really. But then he went out and he got bashed by Zarafa. There's no two ways about that. That's just what happened. But then it just takes him one fight against Joey Spencer to look as good as he did, and he's back right at the very top. So he's a star. He's someone that people globally want to see. Obviously in Australia he's a superstar, but around the world, obviously his name starts conversations and opens doors, and it has led to an enormous opportunity for him.
What's your understanding of where this fight will sort of land, you know, sort of date range? What's your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a few dates that have been thrown around with the various announcements, the leaks that have occurred in the last 24 hours or so. The most prominent of those would be the July 19 date in Las Vegas. So that is the date that most people seem to be pointing towards. So, you know, if you're a betting man, maybe you'd head towards that. But there's a couple of other dates I know in July and also in August. But that's the thinking. In the United States, you'd imagine it's going to be over there in Las Vegas. And, yeah, really excited for the rematch.
Interesting point. Last fight with Tim was he said he can't make this weight much longer. How much longer do you think Tim can stay at 154?
I think with the discipline that he has, he can stay there as long as he really needs to. If there was something calling him at middleweight, then maybe that decision would be an easier one for him. But really, that's not the division right now, is it? But there's so many good fights in this weight division. There's so many opportunities for him to win multiple world titles, as is the case in this next fight, to right some wrongs and to have some really big fights. So I think he'll stick around for a while. He treats his body very, very well. He's not someone who blows out in between fights. I know he does it tough, and he particularly seems to do it tough when he's international, doing that weight, but no rehydration clause has got to help. The IBF is obviously not affiliated here and not an exclusive world title with the IBF. At least it'll be a WBC world title fight, this one. So he'll stick around for a while, and he's got a pretty clear 2-fight plan at least.
Yeah, we saw Michael Zarafa say that he'll fight Keith Thurman if it sort of eventuates. Could we see that fight perhaps?
Well, I don't know that we will, but we'd love to. It'd be a lot of fun. You could put that on the card. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? You could have, the winner of that fight placed there to fight the winner of the other fight, potentially. And I know Michael would love that opportunity. I don't know that that's the option that the Thurman team will take. They know that there's a big fight around the corner, with them being mentioned at least as the fighter to fight the winner of this fight, so they won't want to take any risks. I don't know whether they see Michael Zarafa as a huge risk to Keith Thurman at this stage, but maybe too big a risk to take in a fight like that. So I don't know that we will, but I'd love to see Michael get the opportunity.
Keith Thurman feel any sort of slight that he's sort of been overlooked, or is he happy to sort of wait, hopefully Tim gets a belt and then he can sort of push for that fight?
I think he'd be pretty happy, wouldn't he? He would love to go straight into that fight. I know he wants to fight Tim Tszyu, but if he is the guy who's going to fight the winner, suddenly he's fighting a world champion. And he's the prize. So he's sort of back where he was a little while ago in his prime, being that guy that people are chasing around. And incredible to think that he did that after that huge layoff with a really impressive performance here on one of our shows against Brock Jarvis. So that performance and that fight put him right back there in the position where suddenly he's being talked about as being the prize for a world title fight. It's huge for Keith Thurman in this stage of his career, and that'd be hugely exciting if either Fundora or Tszyu then goes on to fight the outspoken legend who's returned impressively and potentially is off a couple of fights of his return. Against Keith Thurman. That would be really exciting.
Yeah, we've got Sam Goodman and Harry Garside on here in Sydney in a couple of weeks. Thoughts on this event?
Yeah, really excited to see both of them back. Just great to have Harry Garside back around Australian boxing. Clearly he's been around, but he's been doing a lot of other things as well. He's an out-and-out star. He's a mainstream star and a really compelling character that I think the vast majority of mainstream Australian media and society seems to have fallen in behind. He coated himself in glory, winning that medal at the Olympic Games, and then with his reaction to what he's described as a failure at the next Olympic Games, people just really want to see what he is doing, and it's great just to see him back. Be fascinating to see how he is. He talked interestingly just now about how he thinks he might have to sit there and trade a little bit with Charlie Bell because he's been doing a lot more cycling than boxing in the last 6 months. He thinks his legs are heavier. He doesn't know if he can spring around like he used to. But ultimately, we know what we're going to get. He's going to get back to being that really fast, in and out style of a fighter, really elusive, hard to find, hard to hit, and very exciting to watch as well. So that's fantastic. And then Sam Goodman, it was just heartbreaking how it all played out over the December-January period. He was meant to fight for all the belts in Japan. We were meant to go to Japan. That fell apart twice. I think you're still owed some money, but ultimately a lot of people very disappointed with the way that played out. But no one more disappointed than Sam. He wanted that fight, despite what some keyboard warriors globally might say. He was not cutting himself and trying to run away from the challenge of Naoya Inoue. So, just hugely disappointed that didn't happen. And now he starts this next phase, trying to get back in there and getting that world title fight. This, again, described as a world title eliminator because he's still number one in the division. They believe that if he wins here against Tszyu-Sebastian, who's a really entertaining Mexican-style fighter, he'll bring a war. If Sam wins in this return fight, then hopefully the next fight is a world title fight.
Yeah, a bit on at the moment. Got Jai Pataya defence of his world title next month, and George Gambosis supposed to fight Hitchens potentially in New York next month. What's your sort of read on the landscape at the moment?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, isn't there? So great to see Jai Bataille fighting at home again. Always good to see him get out. I know he had a little calf injury, I believe, but it's been pushed back, and he should have no trouble there. The way that he is looking, a lot of guys are just beaten before they get into the ring against him. He's an out-and-out star and such an intimidating character, someone who's just developed so well in their mentality since becoming a world champion. So that's really exciting. And the Kambosos Hitchens fight. We await an official announcement, I think, but it sounds like it's got to be as good as done, because that was the whole point of Kambosos' fight here in Sydney, where he ultimately fought against Jake Wiley, and what was a pretty good main event. Another opportunity for him to go back to the site of his glory against Teofimo Lopez in New York and fight against a world champion and a star in Richardson Hitchens. George will be an underdog for that fight, no doubt, but he's been an underdog there before.
Nikita Tszyu, any update on him?
I think he's starting to get back into the swing of things. I know that the hand wasn't right. They maybe will push back slightly in preparations for his return fight. But there is a date now and a location, so we just wait for an official announcement about the return of Nikita Tszyu. But it sounds like all is good again, so really excited to see him returning. And when he does return, it will be a stacked card. There's some names around him on that show that you'll be excited to see all together on one show. So always exciting to see Nikita Tszyu back in action. He's such a compelling character, then we look forward to seeing Tszyu and some other big announcements to come around that card as well. That's going to be a monster card, the Tszyu card over there in the United States.
Nice one, Benny. Appreciate it.
Thank you.